All righty. Good morning, everybody. I hope everybody's having a wonderful Monday thus far. We decided to go ahead and click off and get a good show to start the week off. We're joined today by Mr. Al Yurman, who is with the 240th Greyhounds, and his story ties into a very famous story, tying in with a MACV-SOG legend, a Project Sigma legend, Mr. Roy Benavidez. Mr. Al was in the CNC chopper flying that day when Mr. Roy completed his heroic mission that day. So we're going to get to hear a lot of firsthand information about that. But we'd like to kind of start hearing about where Mr. Al got started, so to speak, and a little bit about his family and his military history in his family. So we're going to hand it off to Mr. Al. Hope he's doing good this morning, and he's going to get us started today.
All right. Well, I go back in military in my family. My grandfather served under General Pershing in World War I. He was a cavalry officer. He rode horses, and so he was the start of my military family. And my father served in World War II in both the European and Pacific campaigns in the Navy. He was in the Navy for the duration of the war. I got my bug to fly from an uncle of mine who was a career Air Force, who flew B-17s in World War II, was shot down, but stayed in the Air Force after the war, made a career out of it, ended up being the head of maintenance. He was a colonel, head of maintenance for the presidential wing, flying for President Johnson. So that was my background, and my uncle, that was a career pilot, was the sort of background for me to want to fly. I got my private pilot fixed wing when I was still in college, and then I entered the Army because the school I went to, which was the University of Texas, Arlington, didn't have an Air Force ROTC. And I graduated from there in June of 1966. I already had my private pilot's license. At that time, officers had to go to a branch school. So I was a combat branch, was armor. I went to Armor Fort Knox. From Fort Knox, I went to Fort Walters, Texas for primary helicopter training. And from there to Fort Rucker for my advanced training. I graduated flight school in beginning of October 1967. And by November of 67, the day after Thanksgiving, I left Travis Air Force Base and went to Vietnam. When I got to Vietnam, I spent some time in the reception station for about a week, and then was assigned to the 240th Assault Helicopter Company. I kind of remember that day. The sergeant that picked me up was we were in a Jeep going down to from Benoit to Bearcat, which was just south of Benoit. That's where the Greyhound were headquarters at that time. And he told me a little history of the unit, that the unit had gotten over there. And I believe he told me it was April or May of 66. And so when I got there, I met the executive officer. I had also been gunship trained in Fort Rucker, but he said we needed slick pilots. So I was assigned to the second platoon, which was a slick platoon. The Greyhounds we had two slick platoons, a gunship platoon, which was called the Mad Dogs, and a maintenance platoon. Around March of 68, this was 68 by now, all the people that came over originally, all the officers and all the warrant officers, rotated out. By that time, I had I'd gotten there in late November, so that then I was with Platoon, and I was the highest ranking. I was a first lieutenant at the time, and I was the highest ranking officer for that platoon, and I became a platoon commander. And for a while there, we just we did regular missions. We were support of the 9th Division. That was our main support, but we did all kinds of missions because the 240th at that time was the only company in country that was all H model Hueys. Some companies had D models and a few H models, but we had all H models, which were the stronger helicopter. So we got a lot of missions that were, in support. They were insertions and 10 ship insertions, but we also got what we used to call ash and trash missions every now and then, just to break it up a little bit. And if I remember correctly, we started when I first got there. That sergeant that drove me down said, since the unit was there, they had flown a lot of hours, a lot of combat hours, and had no fatalities or any incidents. But one of the first incidents we had, one of the first missions I had, we flew about 19 hours of straight missions, trying to move a brigade of the 101st Airborne into the mountains, and we didn't even have time to shut down the helicopters on that mission. And during that mission, one of the ships, the first platoon leader, was killed. They had a transmission failure, and all 4 people on board, and that started a situation where the things started going a little bit different. Things got a little tougher in 68. As everybody will remember, 68 was the year of Tet. And we did a lot of support, a lot of flying for the 9th Division during Tet. However, we can get back to around end of March, where everybody had to rotate out, and I took over the platoon.
That's right.
For a while, we were doing mainly our support of the 9th Division, and since they had rotated, our commanders, the company commander, who was originally with the unit, had left the company, and we got a commander, a Major Jesse James.
Yes.
And he was originally, he was in country. This was his second tour. He was a West Pointer. He was a fixed wing pilot, and both tours he was flown fixed wings. But however, he was a career officer, and so they gave him a command of the 240th, and I was in command put in command of the 2nd platoon, and the 1st platoon. I don't remember who was in command there, but he wasn't there that long. By the time the mission came up with the Special Forces unit, I understood that. Well, let me just backtrack a little bit. The 240th had gotten a reputation good reputation as a unit that we would take. No mission was too tough for us. We were we were very reliable, and it was pretty well known throughout our area and other areas. That's why we got assigned. Besides the helicopters were the strongest with the H models, as a very reliable unit. And when everybody originally left, we had gotten a bunch of other pilots that have been in country for a while. And but my platoon, the first platoon, got quite a few missions that were opposite just the support in the 9th Division. So we supported the 101st Division, 4th Division. We were all over pretty much all over 3 Corps, 2 Corps, and part of 4 Corps supporting different units. Then we got notification that we needed a platoon of our unit to support the Special Forces, and because they had a unit, helicopter unit that was helping them. However, they went through some of the missions that they had to do. So we took over that mission with them. I think it was sort of like the beginning of April of '68. And we were with them for quite a while until we had the mission came up for May 2nd. We were on another mission with them, and I forget where it was. It wasn't too far off the Cambodian border, but we up to this point we had not gone into the Cambodian border, and the mission we were on, we had lost a ship. They had gone out on a mission, and they disappeared. I don't think we ever found the wreckage or anything of that particular. But since the mission we were on with the Special Forces was secret, there was no. When Eric Glenn wrote the book Legend, he couldn't find any history of this particular action that I had told him about, and so we were taken off for that particular mission, and I was ordered to bring all the platoon back. We stopped at the Special Force, their headquarters, and I was instructed to go inside to talk to their commander, Colonel Drake. He told me to take our ships back to our home base at Bearcat, strip the ships, strip all our insignias off of our uniforms, and only come back with dog tags. I reported to Major James that that's what they wanted. So they stripped the strips, and we that night pulled our uniforms, all our insignias off. Showed up the next morning. I went inside, spoke to Colonel Drake, and he told me that in this particular mission, they were a friend of his, an associate of his, up in I Corps Special Forces, had captured a Russian truck.
Yes,
and we
this
were
is
gonna,
crazy.
Yeah,
This is.
he told me he captured a Russian truck, his friend, and we were going to do the same thing. We were going to go across the border, set a team in, and they were going to capture the truck and drive it back out to where we were based there at Loch Ninh. So, all right, I came out of his command center, and our guys were all there, and I briefed them. I didn't have much to tell them. I stated it in the book. All I could think of is, well, we're finally going to be doing a John Wayne mission. I told them what Drake told me. Nobody ever said we were going into Cambodia, but we all knew where we were going.
Mm-hmm.
So we all got up to Loc Ninh, and that was on May 1st. When we got up there, I refueled, and my ship with my crew, myself, Warrant Officer Smith was flying with me, my gunner, and my crew chief. I just remember his last name was Starkey. I don't remember what a gunner was, because a lot of the gunners would, come and go. We didn't always have the same one.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And along with my crew, the operations officer from the Special Forces, right offhand, I can't remember his name. I think you have it there. The Special Forces lieutenant.
Robin Torno.
That doesn't sound like him.
I'll find it. I'm blanking on his.
Yeah, all right. And the team leader, Sergeant Wright. Now, let me just go back a little bit, because when we weren't actually flying a special mission with a team, now we had been with them about 5-6 weeks by that time. We all stayed at during the day at the Special Forces camp, so we knew practically all the sergeants and all the Special Forces people, because we all just mingled together in the same area. So that's why, we knew Benavidez by the fact that he was just one of the sergeants that we just knew them all. Well, anyway, the 6 of us headed out. Nobody knew where we were. Nobody knew where we were going. We had absolutely no. Again, it was such a secret mission that while we were gone looking for a landing zone, I understand that most of my other crew members had to sign a form that stated they weren't mentioned anything about this mission for 35 or 40 years. And so we headed out, just a single ship, to find a landing zone, and got across. The reason we knew we were across the border from Vietnam into Cambodia was the B-52s had bombed the area, and they're all craters filled with water from the rain. And once you got to that area, on the guard frequency from Benoit, they would shout out, come across the radio on the emergency frequency. We got a ship crossing into what was it?
Daniel Boone.
No, that was the into Pepper Pot.
Oh.
Aircraft passing into Pepper Pot, which we just ignored. We went out there. We were flying west, and we came across this. Well, it turned out to be a base camp, and there was a lot of trucks down there. And wow, we didn't even know it was there. And so we flying around a base camp, the North Vietnamese base camp, could see all these trucks. And I explained it in the book, and at the time, to me, it looked like there's. I know you're down in Alabama, but for a lot of people that don't realize it, the Jersey Turnpike has at the end where at that time the Jersey Turnpike ended for an entrance to Lincoln Tunnel, and they had toll booths that would cross the whole highway, and there's about 20 of them, and all the trucks and cars would pull up in the toll booth, and that's what it looked like to me. It looked like the Jersey Turnpike with all kinds of trucks. Well, my gunner happened to have his camera with him, so I told him, take pictures of the trucks. And they want to know if there's a truck there. Maybe we can save some people some aggravation. So he took the pictures, and then we flew around to find a landing zone, which wasn't too far from there. And we picked it out. Wright, the team leader, Wright, looked at it, and the Special Forces lieutenant looked at it, and we decided that was going to be the landing zone.
Lieutenant Fred Jones.
I think it was. Yeah. Lieutenant Jones.
I've got a photo. I think it's right here. The launch officer. There is that him right here?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so, actually, I mean, the gunner and crew chief didn't know it, but I knew the landing zone. Warrant Officer Smith knew it. Lieutenant Jones and the team leader. And we flew back, and we spent the night at Lock Nin. The next day, well, I knew by putting them in there, the insertion wasn't going to be a problem. We could sneak them in, and what we had developed over the course of working with these guys, it was I, as the command and control, I knew where the landing zones were, and I would, in order for a surprise, I would fly above whatever ships were going to land in the landing zone because I could see it and I knew where it was, and I would guide them in there. Left, right, slow, that's your landing gear. So we got back. We didn't brief anybody. We didn't say anything. Nobody knew where we were going exactly until we decided to, we knew the insertion was going to be the next day. Here's something that I didn't realize this until many years later, even after the book was written. When the team showed up to launch, when we were ready to go insert them into the area, I think it was 4 Americans, Special Forces, the team leader, and the radio operator, and 2 other Special Forces. And the rest of them were made up of indigenous people that they paid. They were paid soldiers. Most of them were either Vietnamese or Cambodians. But those people were dressed as North Vietnamese soldiers. And I didn't realize this until well after the book was written. And the thing that, I'm backtracking a little bit, the thing that clued me when I finally found out, when I read one of, I read the book, our book, Legend. They said that Benavidez had some North Vietnamese that he rescued too. But I think that was our own people that were dressed as
NVA, yeah,
NVA soldiers, where the Americans just had camouflage on, and but they had uniforms that were again, we didn't have any patches or anything, but they had what they looked more. They didn't look Vietnamese, that's for sure. Okay, so we headed out. I had on my ship the team leader, and the radio operator. And the other two ships had, each ship had one of the special forces and the indigenous on it. I guided the two ships. One ship was flown by Larry McKibben and his crew, and the other ship was aircraft was flown by Jerry Ewing and his crew. I guided them into the area, and then I landed in the area to let the team leader and the radio operator off. And as the team leader was Wright was getting off the plane, he patted me on the shoulder and thanked me, and I said to him, "You're not going to have any trouble finding a truck." You know, we saw all those trucks. And we took off, leaving them there. Now I just had the Jones and my crew were on the ship. And on the way back, two things happened. Number one, they started the people on the ground, the team started radioing that they were having a lot of movement, and they were afraid they were going to get compromised. That was the first sign we had. The second thing we had going was they used to, when the B-52s were raiding, they would announce over the guard radio that there was an arc light, and they would give the coordinates. And so as we're flying back, I hear this. We hear this on the radio, and we're looking on the map, and I was at the controls, and Smith looks at I says, "Where is that?" He says, "Holy crap, that's right here." So I had to speed up the ship. We had to speed up. We got on the other side into Vietnam, and boy, they had a bombing attack, and all the rumblings and stuff. We were all, we got out of that one all right. So when we landed, things were getting worse for the team, and Jones went into his tactical operations center, and I went to my tent to lie down. After a while, one of the special forces, one of the people from the command center came and said, "It looks like it's getting kind of rough out there. We might have to pull them out." So at this time, I said, "Oh, gee, I knew that we were. It was going to be a little tougher now than they're not driving out." So on my way to the operations center, I ran into Larry McKibben. Let me tell you about Larry McKibben. He was quite. He was my most experienced pilot, and Jerry Ewing was his roommate, and my second most experienced. And earlier on, before this mission, he came up to me and he told me that he wanted to extend because he wanted to go to Cobra school. And when I signed the papers for him, and I said, "Okay, I will." And that would have required him to at least stay for another 6 months or so. Well, on my way over to the operations center, just before that mission, he had come to me and said he didn't want to. He wanted to rescind his request. He wanted to go home. He was very young. I think he had just turned 20. He had already won the Silver Star, and he was, very experienced. And one, I couldn't ask for a better senior warrant officer. And so as I'm walking, I ran into him, and I could see the troubled look on his face. And he didn't say much. He was, I knew he was short at this time because he was, at this particular time, he only had about 2 weeks left before he was going to go home because, you know, he asked me to drop his request. Yeah. So he only had about 2 weeks left to go home, and he really wanted to get home to his family. And I think he had a sister. I don't know about any, and you know, I don't think he had a girl. I don't know about his, you know, personal life that way, but I know he missed his sister and his mother and his father. And so I said to him, well, Larry, listen, you know, the insertion was no problem, but this is going to be rough. Why don't you just, I'm going to put you in reserve. I want you to stand by at the flight line with your ship with the radio on. And if the battery runs low, don't worry about it. Battery change on that aircraft could take about 5 minutes. All you had to take a live battery from another ship, put it in yours, get started, take it out, and put your own battery in, and there was no problem. And so I said, you don't come out unless I request it, and I'm not going to ask for you unless we're really in a tight spot. Okay, he agreed to that. So again, we were going to go out single ship to see what was going on, to fly overhead. In the meantime, there was a forward air controller, Air Force, that was assigned to our missions, and he had already taken off and gone out to the area, operational area. I got into I was going to my aircraft, and I ran into Major James and a major from the Special Forces headquarters. And he flew up with Major James, and Major James told me that they were going to go with me, that whoever my, warrant officer that was flying with me, Smith, he was going to go in his place, and the major was coming along with us. So my crew, plus Major James and the Special Forces Major and Jones, got in the ship, and we headed out to the area to see what was going on. By this point, it was really getting rough. And so I had to call back to my people in Loch Ninh. Okay, launch, come on out. And I told them which way to head out because they didn't know where to go.
Have we made it into May 2nd yet? Is this still May 1st where you're?
No, we're in May 2nd from when I'm sorry.
No, it's fine. Yeah.
When I inserted the team, that was already May 2nd. I'm sorry.
It's fine. Just wanted to clarify. Yeah.
We're well into May 2nd. We're
Ooh, okay, yeah.
Because we launched them at daybreak. Okay. So they came out with the gunships from our gunships, the Mad Dogs, and we were ready to insert try to insert two aircraft to, well, first of all, we had the gunships. By this time, it was really getting rough. Jones was telling his major, I think we ought to pull him out of there. I'm sorry, let me backtrack a little bit. I hadn't called the ships out yet because the Special Forces major, again, I don't remember his name. You've got it, you've got the list of it there. And Major James are discussing and what to do, and Jones is saying, we better pull him out of there. We better pull him out of there. And they're holding off. Jones told me later what was going on, but at that time they wouldn't do it. And finally, things were getting so rough. The fact and the gunships weren't helping them. Nothing was helping. So we launched our slicks to come out. And Jesse James really didn't know what was going on. Like I said, he was a fixed wing pilot. He didn't really know much about the helicopter tactics, especially he didn't know anything about what we were doing with this particular mission. So he was flying, but it turned out that Major James and the Special Forces Major were classmates at West Point. And they were arguing, and finally, the people on the ground said, hey, things are getting really bad there. I had to cut into Jesse James and with the intercom and put it on private. And I told him, listen, if we don't get these guys out of here, it's going to be bad, because the lieutenant's right. I mean, it's getting to a point that it's really going to be tough. Finally, between the three of us, convinced the major to pull him out. So we launched the slicks, and we started trying to get somebody in there. Each time a ship would come out, I'd have to guide them in, the way I originally did it. And several attempts, and then, the book tells you each one of the crews that tried it, what was going on with them. It was getting rough. People were getting shot up and wounded, and we couldn't get any ships in there.
51 calibers lining the area, just shooting y'all like fish in a barrel.
What I could tell you is, we could see from the command and control ship, they were just coming over by the truckload from their base camp. They're coming over. I mean, trucks full of infantry or whatever, and gunships were trying to take them on, but it got to a point. This mission was so top secret and so prioritized that the forward air controller was able to use a code, which I knew the code too, but a Daniel Boone emergency, which went out on guard frequency to all jet aircraft with armament. And he gave them the location off the Benoit VOR of where we were, and once they heard this Daniel Boone emergency, they all just stopped whatever missions they were on, whatever ordnance they had, and came to that area. Finally, we were still trying. Jerry Ewing had gone in, and he couldn't make contact. He couldn't get in, and he pulled out. So we decided that we were just going to get as many aircraft over there as possible, and continue to pepper the area with whatever armament came with the fighters. And they started coming over. So Jerry pulled out, and as he's pulling out, I started to tell him to go circle or go back and refuel. That he was when I don't want to say after we what we were going to do with it, and we were going to try to do some stuff and I don't remember how I said it, but in other words, I was telling him we're going to pepper the area with armament from the jets. When we're done with that and we think it's ready, then I wanted him to go back in again. He misunderstood me, and he's saying to me, "Oh, I just got out. And I said, but by the time I was trying to explain something to him, I hear McKibben on the radio saying he was inbound. And I said, I never understood. Got me? Oh, yeah. And I never understood how he got out there, what he was doing out there. And then because the ground troops were throwing smoke and everything, he knew where to go, and I saw him. The next time I saw him, he was in the landing zone, and I'm telling him on the radio, Larry, I never could figure out what he was doing there. Get out of there, get out of there. And he said, I can't. My special forces. He gave me the phonetics. My Sierra Foxtrot medic jumped off the ship. I didn't know what he was talking about.
Oh God!
I had no idea what he was talking about. Medic? We don't have any medic. You know, I didn't know from that. And I'm trying to tell him to get out of there, get out of there. He's telling me I'm going to stay. I want to see if I can get him out of here. And I see him moving around in the LZ, and I'm trying to order him to get out of there. And then I see that he got shot up, and I watched this aircraft fall to the ground, and he went silent. And I knew that was, I figured something happened. I didn't know till later, that he was dead. But now I got a ship in there, and I know how he got in there. And we peppered the area for a while. Even the forward air controller had to get low on the ground. He was treetop level, trying to pick out targets for the jet aircraft, for targets. Finally, when we thought that there was enough in there, we tried one more time to get somebody in there, and we finally got a crew in there, and we got them out. The whole thing was probably 4.5, 5 hours over that one area.
Did you know at this point in time? Did you know there were American casualties on the ground, or did you not know anything except they were in trouble?
Well, we know they were reporting to us that they hold on a second, Mike. Can you hold on 1 second?
Yes, sir. It's fine. It's fine. Take your time. Yeah, because I believe Sergeant O'Connor ran out to save some money and got shot, unfortunately.
Yeah, I'm back. The radio operator was keeping us abreast, who was losing, who they were losing, and who they weren't. Well, when they got back, once we got Benavidez and the people out of there, we went back to Loch Ninh. And when I landed, somebody I heard over the radio that somebody had picked up McKibben's body, and Jesse James wouldn't let me go identify it. And I was so disgusted, I threw my helmet down. I mean, if they had listened to Jones and myself to get him out of there when we first got off there, I don't think we would have had as many casualties. Also, they wanted the truck bad because when I met up with Jesse James before we went out to see what the mission, what was going on, he showed me the pictures we had taken, and you could see there were Russian trucks, and so I always felt that I didn't know the ins and outs, but I thought it was a mission that we could have avoided killing people. But they wanted. As a matter of fact, what happened, Jones told me later, Lieutenant Jones told me, he was actually fired. When I went back, I had to refuel one time. We went back to refuel. He wasn't getting on the ship. I said, aren't you coming? He said, no, Major, the Major kind of fired him. And I said, what? Well, he told me afterwards that they didn't kind of, they thought he was too quick to pull people out.
God.
It was the operation. And so they didn't want him out there anymore. So he got relieved. So when we finally
right there on the spot, he got relieved of command.
And so when we finally got people out, he wasn't on the aircraft. The other thing was, so I had the crew that finally got in there was all warrant officers, because so many of my people were getting hurt and injured. I had hardly any ships left. So one ship, Raggy's warrant officer Raggy, he had gotten Raggy, Smith, Hoffman, and all warrant officers, and Darling. Two of them flew it, and the other two manned the guns. Well, I went up to Warrant Officer Darling afterwards, and I said, "Who did? How many did we get out of there?" He said that he told me that we had gotten 3 out, but one was shot in the back on a ship and died. That turned out to be Wright, the team leader. And the radio operator was the other one. And of course, they didn't know at the time the other American was. So they got 3 Americans out, and 1 American got shot on the ship, Sergeant Wright. So the 3 Wright, the radio operator, and Benavidez. Now, just to backtrack a little bit. Of course, later on, when the book was written, they stated that Benavidez had gotten the North Vietnamese, he did got North Vietnamese out there, but those were more than likely our people, but they were dressed as North Vietnamese soldiers. So, and then that's it. Well, I didn't talk about it for 35 years until one day Jerry Ewing calls me up, and we were talking 35 years later, and he said to me, "Well, we're going to have a reunion in St. Louis, and they're going to honor the guys that were on the rescue mission." I said, "What rescue mission?" They said, "Oh, you weren't there?" I said, "What rescue mission?" "Well, for the one that where Benavidez got the Medal of Honor." I said, "Who's Benavidez?" I didn't even know. He said, "Well, that was the Special Forces, the Green Beret guy that got the Medal of Honor." I said, "Where did he come from?" I said, "Was that the medic that was on McKibben's ship?" He said, "Yeah." "Did you read the book? You weren't there when the president gave him the medal?" I said, "I had no idea. I didn't even know. Up to this point, I had no idea that Benavidez was who Benavidez was. I had no idea how Larry McKibben got out there. I had absolutely no idea how Larry got out there. When I told him, and nobody knew this. All these years, nobody knew that I had put Larry in reserve, and I was trying to prevent what eventually didn't happen. And I says, "Oh," so Jerry told me about his book. So I got one of Benavidez's books, and he had no idea who the heck I was, and he had, thanked Jesse James and the 240th, but like I said, now we know the story. And so I didn't go to that that particular
event that they held
at a reunion. And like I said, I read the book, and he in his books, Benavidez gave mention of the 240th and name names and stuff like that. But of course, he didn't know me from Adam. And then about a year and a half, 2 years later, I get a call from Jerry that an author is going to write a book about the 240th and on this mission. Would I talk to him? And I spoke to Eric Blem, and we talked for about an hour and a half on the phone. I told him that, you know, I was really the only one that knew most of the stuff that I told you. Nobody else knew. Okay, for all these years, the mission or anything like that, because again, it was super top secret. And I told him that I would help him with the book. I knew everything about, and I would only talk about the aviation part. I couldn't verify anything other than the argument that was going on over the radio about Benavidez and stuff like that. But I knew everything about our people, the aviation people. And I met him in New York in a hotel. We spent about 5-6 hours. And then I helped him, you know, when he was writing the book, I was going over the transcript with him to make sure that we had as close as possible the facts of that day and that mission. There's a few things I didn't remember, because now we're talking 35, almost 40 years since I had to remember all this stuff. He had asked me if Jesse James was with me on the insertion when we put them in. And I said, I don't remember. Well, in the book, he gave him credit for it. But then I was thinking about it, and I remembered that he couldn't have been with me, because when we went out there and he was with me and I got killed, he wouldn't know where to go. Like I said, Smith was with me, and he knew where to go, and I knew where to go. Okay, and Lieutenant Jones could recognize the LZ when we got out there, but he wasn't a pilot, so he didn't know how to get there either. So and then in the book it says all the people that Benavidez rescued, and it wasn't mentioned. Like I said, I wasn't going to talk about the ground people, but I told Eric that well, if that many people were on that aircraft, I don't think he ever would have got out of the LZ. I mean, it was hot. You know, you're in the jungle. It's about 125 degrees, somewhere around there, over 100 degrees, and I don't think that aircraft would have been able to get out of there if that many people were on the aircraft.
Yeah.
So, but that, you know, I said I can't verify anything that Benavidez wrote or what they had told you about the ground. That was their part. So that's basically it.
We'll have a few questions here, but there's a great book, and I don't know if you know about it, but I'm always harking on it for guys interested in CCS and Project Sigma and all the groups. This is a complete history of CCS and the Green Berets in Cambodia by Colonel Lindsay, who ran CCS for a year and a half, I believe. But it's missions from 66, 67, all the way till when they shut down in 72. And there's a great write-up on you gentlemen and Mr. Roy, because he was part of Project Sigma. But there's a great write-up where he specifically mentions the Mad Dogs, the Greyhounds, the Kennel Keepers, which is y'all's maintenance. I thought that's a great name for the maintenance men, the Kennel Keepers. And they go through and honor and talk about Warrant Officer Roger Waggy, Mr. McKibben, CW2 William Fernan, Thomas Smith, Warrant Officer Gerald Ewing. It's amazing. And I mean, Mr. Larry, from what I've read, he was in quite a few hot spots leading up to the Roy Benavidez mission. I think him and Mr. Paul LaChance were when an aircraft was shot down and burning up. I believe he and Mr. McKibben went and rescued the guy, and ended up Mr. LaChance had all of his facial hair burn off, his eyebrows, his chest hair, and it sounded. I think they landed right in the middle of an NBA battalion actually, and had to pick him up.
Well, let me tell you, I had 50 people working for me, and 25 were killed. Because after that mission on May 2nd, we were down for a while because we had to replenish our ships. And then about a month and a half later, after that, we had a mission to insert a battalion of Thai troops.
Oh.
Just south of Saigon. And I was the lead ship, and our operations officer, who happened to be the second platoon commander, who I took over for, was in the CNC ship, and it was kind of foggy that day, low fog. Finally, it lifted, and the 10 ships with me in the lead took off from our embarkation area, flew out to the accident to the site. I could see the CNC ship off to my left, about 3 miles away, and I identified him. So I had to make a turn with the 10 ships in trail. They were not in complete trail, in the staggered right formation. And as we're turning to the left, out of nowhere, the CNC ship was right in front of me. My the guy I was flying with, Arnold, was at the controls because I was looking out, trying to find out where to go and everything. He lowered the collector, and they missed me. We kind of overlapped our blades, missed me by feet or maybe inches. However, he ran into the 2 ships to my right, and everybody was killed. And in those ships that went down, Smith was in it, Hoffman was in it, and let's see, there was one other warrant officer that were there. At least 2 of those guys and those crews were also in that mission with me on May 2nd. So 3 more of our guys were killed. Well, plus the CNC commander. So total overall, out of 50 people that were working for me for those few months, my platoon lost half of those people.
We always, and I've got some photos, and there's actually, I was in an event honoring another pilot from the 101st Airborne, or not a pilot, he was a door gunner with the Lancers, who was honored here at Fort Rucker last week that I got to attend. And they've got a Mad Dog aircraft, and I believe it's mocked up around Mr. Warrant Officer Terry Morris or Wayne Morris. I'm blanking on the name, and I'm looking for the photos where I can bring them up. But you had spoken a little bit about before, and I had the date. It was right before the second week of March, before y'all start getting assigned to work with B-56 Project Sigma. could you tell a difference in the danger level going from supporting the Ninth and the 101st and then going over to that, or was it equally as hairy each group you supported?
Well, the Ninth Division missions, sometimes they were hot LZs and sometimes they weren't. These guys were operating by ourselves, very close to the border of Cambodia in very remote areas. Okay, we didn't even think about it. You know, we knew what the mission was. It was a change in the beginning from just assault missions with the Ninth Division or any of the division assaults, in which were 10 slicks and 4 guns. This was 5 ships, usually maybe 2 at a time. We didn't always have to use them all. And it was an interesting mission. I mean, the mission before that, or 1 or 2 before that, we were stationed at the base camp. It was a special forces base camp. It was overrun. And some of our guys had almost 1 infantry badges because they had to go to the berm. I mean, you're out there in the middle of nowhere. I mean, Loch Lynn was bad enough. It's up by the Michelin plantation, but when you're flying maybe 10 miles away from the base camp where you're at, in the middle of nowhere, I mean, nobody knows where you are. Okay, that's probably why we weren't able to find that 1 ship that went missing. So,
That I mean, I can't imagine the door gunners. We've gotten to where we've heard a lot from the SOG gentlemen and the Lurks and the Rangers and all that. But anytime we have, it doesn't matter if it's a Cobra pilot, a Slick pilot, a gunship pilot, or even the Facts. I mean, you guys, I'm amazed at what y'all face day in and day out. The recon guys were out there and they'd get a little bit of break, but you guys were doing this day in and day out. It's amazing how well y'all withstood it. I know y'all had to blow off steam and have fun, but I mean, that's tough work y'all were doing day in.
well, then again, this was May. The last time that, in August, I was hospitalized. I thought I had hepatitis.
Oh, geez.
And I was hospitalized, but I was still a commander in command of the 2nd Platoon. I had a warrant officer that came. His name was Eisenhower. I forgot his first name, but
Eisenhower.
He had gotten over there, and he called me to his room one night. He had just had a newborn baby.
Oh no.
He was worried that he was, something was going to happen to him, and he would never see his baby. And I tried to, calm him down. But when I was in the hospital, he went on a mission. It was just an ash and trash mission to resupply, and he had with him the executive officer, a new executive officer from our battalion, who was getting an orientation flight with him. On the way back, there was some, I don't know all the details. However, there was a unit that was in trouble and needed evacuation. Now, the colonel had a problem with his helmet and his headset. He couldn't hear anything. Warrant Officer Eisenhower made several attempts to rescue these people on this mission. He was all done. Like I said, it was a resupply mission that was on, and helped this unit out. And from what I understood, he made 3 attempts, and on the 3rd attempt, he was killed on the way in. And the colonel, like I said, he didn't know what was going on. He saw him slump over, took control of the aircraft, and flew it back to the base camp. And after I got out of the hospital, I only had about a month and a half left till I had to leave. So I went up to a battalion headquarters, and I was the awards and decoration officer. And they put him in Eisenhower in for Medal of Honor, and I approved it, but he never got it. But he should have gotten it, and so should have Larry. When I found out, McKibben, when I found out, and I was talking to Eric, I told him, you know, about, I didn't know anything about Benavidez and for all those years, and I never knew why Larry showed up, and which I found out later, the stories in the book, how Benavidez got in the aircraft and all that other stuff. However, when I was talking about it, Eric Lem said to me, well, don't you think that Benavidez should have got the Medal of Honor? I said, probably so, but so should have Larry McKibben. And when the book was written, we had a reunion, and I ran into Larry's sister. And I told her that I would, you know, witness statements and everything. We'd put him in for a Medal of Honor, but she told me Benavidez also wanted him to get a Medal of Honor. He didn't want it, and his family. Well, he didn't want it. He was also deceased, but his family didn't want him to have it. You know, that's their choice. So I never pursued it any further.
Jeez, that's yeah. I mean, looking back and hearing your side, and now looking at after reading the book, there's quite a few men that probably deserved more than the Silver Stars and the Distinguished Flying Cross and such that were awarded. There's several men that probably could have earned.
Well, let me tell you something about that too. I told Jesse James afterwards, around 4 or 5 days later, I said, we're going to put our guys in for DFCs. And he said, no, we're not going to do it. We don't have to do it. That Colonel Drake was going to do it. The commander of the Special Forces. Nobody got put in for DFCs.
Jesus.
Because later on, when I did run into, when we put the book out, we had the reunion. Jerry Ewing was there, and Armstrong, and well, you know, the people that have survived. And I asked them, I said, "You guys ever get to DFCs?" Nope, nobody got anything.
Not a thing. Not downgrade from the DFC to the Silver Star, nothing.
Nothing. No air medals. My guys for that mission got nothing.
That, you know, that's CCS and the surrounding units that in that book, that seems to be a huge discrepancy among the Central and the CCN and CCC and their area units. I don't understand it. Why? I know it's a secret organization, and doing this draws attention, but the way they were stingy with award decorations and meritorious valor awards is quite shameful. I feel safe saying that it's quite shameful.
What I figured out was that the career soldiers, the career officers, for them, they needed it, you know, for their career. I was kind of lucky in a way. I had a command. You know, commanders, combat commanders wore the green tabs. I had a combat command, and I was gonna make a career out of it. But along the way, we had a president that you know, he gave all the draft dodgers you know, a free pass, and all the officer pilots in the Army, if we didn't have certain got rifted out. You know, I mean,
yeah.
I got out as a major, but when I was going for lieutenant colonel, you know, they put a requirement on us that was hard to get in a reserve unit, and so I ended up getting about 17 and a half years. Now I'm 100% disabled, so I'm getting
VA support.
I'm getting my VA support, but and you know, I'm officially retired, you know, as a major. But it took time. You know, last time I saw Jerry Ewing, he had a lot of guilt. You know, because he didn't know that that Larry wasn't supposed to be out there. He didn't know that I didn't mean for him to go right back in there. Okay, that we were, you know, I couldn't, like I said, I couldn't tell him over the air that we were going to start blasting the place with jet aircraft. But all he knew was he just came out of there. As a matter of fact, he come out of there and verified that McKibben was dead.
I mean, in the book, and we'll have some questions here since we've already been an hour or so in. This stuck out. I mean, immediately talking about how much you looked out for your guys. Greyhound senior pilots Larry McKibben and Jerry Ewing were prepping for the mission in their hooch when Al Yurman stopped by to give them the lineup for the following day. Yerman, in quotations, hated like hell to send his boys on missions like this when they were so close to going home. McKibben's only 6 weeks shy of the end of his year-long tour, while Ewing was just under 2 months. The unwritten rule was you'd keep your short guys off the risky missions, but in this case, they had no choice. The 240th had a couple of slicks shot up the week before, and we're still needing experienced pilots for this mission coming up. So, I mean, it comes through clearly that you knew, and this was going to be a tough one, but you were also looking out for your guys. It comes through several times in this book.
But the correction there, see, they all thought that it was 6 weeks, that McKibben was 2 weeks.
Two weeks.
Because he had asked for the extension. Nobody knew but me that he didn't want, he wanted me to you know,
to keep going,
withdraw it, and I did. So he was scheduled to go home 2 weeks from then. And that's why he was so upset.
I can imagine, and we hear stories of the SOG guys having premonitions on and being short, and it going exactly like the premonition went. It's incredibly sad seeing stuff like that. But
here's another story about Warrant Officer Hoffman, who was on the extraction ship. He was due to take an R&R to Tokyo, to Japan. At that time, my uncle, who I mentioned earlier in the beginning, who was a career, had just gotten a tour in Korea, and he was going to be in Tokyo at an air base there at a friend of his house, and asked if I could meet him there. Well, I found out that Hoffman had R&R scheduled on that date. So I went to the Hoffman and I said, listen, I told him my uncle was going to be there. Can you switch with me? I'll prove any other R&R Japan for you if you could switch with me. And he said, yeah, sure, fine. And finally he says, we switched and everything. He says, now watch, I'll get killed. He got killed.
Jeez. That's I mean, that's eerily reminds me of the Jerry Shriver operation, where a good friend of mine, a SOG chase medic, was supposed to be flying that day, and had switched out with a guy that was semi-short as well. And he was like, God, I hope I don't regret this, and end up buying the farm on this one. And sure enough, he was one of the men that went down with Mr. Jerry Shriver in Cambodia. And Mr. Ken said never again would he let someone take his place and die in a spot. That's haunted him to this day.
I can still see that aircraft in my windshield coming at me. I mean, I'm alive, you know,
Because of him.
You know, I don't know how.
You pilots, I mean, say what you will, you know, the guys on the ground dodging bullets and all of that, but you guys flying in that steel bird, you know, just coming in without a care in the world, trying to get the guys off the ground. I mean, that's why the men on the ground love and respect y'all so much.
Well, that's one of the satisfying things. You run into an infantryman now in the Veterans Hospital or anywhere, and they know you're a helicopter pilot. To this day, they thank us. We may not have done anything for them personally, but the overall, the helicopter pilots were there for them. I mean, since then, I don't think they've used them as much before Vietnam or even after. But
Oh yeah,
it's a good feeling to have some infantry guy to come up to you and thank you.
Anytime I speak to a pilot that was up in certain vets area of operations, they always tell me to thank them for what they did. Like you said, even if they didn't support SOG or SF or the unit that the guy was in, Force Recon, they always say thank you because I mean they'll flat out say it. Without them, we'd probably still be in Laos, being worm food. So you guys put your life on the lines and saved many more lives in the process of doing that. That's why it's always great when you slick pilots or any fixed wing or rotor wing aircraft pilots speak to us and share y'all's story, because it's just unlike any you'll get to hear. You know, the ground stuff's crazy, but you guys up in the air just facing a totally different ball game up there. I was gonna see we'll cover a few questions because we're coming up on an hour and a half here, guys. If y'all have got any questions, pop them in. I know y'all have been listening pretty intently, but we're gonna go kind of back in time. You mentioned at the beginning being short on slick pilots. Did you want? Guys are always curious about this as well. Were you wanting to be a gunship, a Cobra pilot, or were you always set on being a slick, or was that just like you said, how the Army made your career go?
Well, when I first got there, the Cobras weren't in action. They were using C model
Gunship.
Hueys for gunships. It was towards the end that they started using the Cobras, and that's what Larry McKibben wanted to transfer into the Cobra. So and I volunteered to take gunship training at Fort Rucker, but they didn't need gunship pilots when my unit, and I was assigned to the slicks, and that's where I stayed.
Wow. And that's always interesting seeing guys their choice or why they chose the specific model or shall we say what gunship platform they were going to fly in. You know, some guys just instantly fell in love with if they were later in the war, seeing Cobras on the news or hearing about people talking about them, or guys like y'all and the slicks wanting to get out there and go in fast, save lives, get men off the battlefield, or get much needed supplies to the men on the ground. So it's always interesting hearing how y'all choose y'all's diversion of path, shall we say, to the different platforms y'all got to. And it's always nice hearing about Fort Rucker. I'm only about 8 minutes away from the front gate, so it's always nice hearing of you guys training down here. I'm sure it was just a blip on the map down here in the 60s and the 70s, because it's still mighty small out here. I was gonna see, did you and it mentions in the book, I think, that literally you may not have been with the 240th yet, but when you were first in country, did you actually get to see Mr. Bob Hope, a USO show with Mr. Bob
Absolutely.
Hope?
Yeah, I
You
did.
did?
Well, I got there probably the last couple of days of November, and Bob Hope show. I was there maybe 3 weeks, 4 weeks when Bob Hope show came in. And I was lucky on that too. I had a friend of mine that I was in flight school with, and he happened to be the escort for Raquel Welch.
Oh man!
And
Wow!
so I saw him before the show, and he took my camera because he had front row seats, and so he was able to get close-up pictures for me. Which and then after the show, I went backstage to get my camera, and he introduced me to Raquel Welch.
Oh wow!
Meet Bob Hope, and I don't know. I think you and I were talking a couple of days ago when I said I didn't think much of Raquel Welch. She was kind of, well, she wanted to get out of there.
Oh yeah.
A friend introduced me to her, and she gave me a yeah. When are we getting out of here? Yeah. You know, she brushed me off, and so I got my camera back, and then Bob Hope came out, and I was really, I didn't shake his hand or anything. They were all busy trying to get out of there, but she wasn't too pleasant.
I was about to say she came in and did the required work, but other than that, she was
Right.
ready to go.
Right.
That's always amazing. It seems like there was a few of the people, and of course Raquel Welch being the sex symbol and star that she was. I could see that, but it's also neat seeing of course Colonel Martha Ray, but some of the other up and coming young ladies and some of the playmates that actually came over there and actually enjoyed meeting y'all and didn't give y'all the brush off treatment, shall we say.
Right.
Yeah. So when you when you first get to the 240th and everything, we always ask the pilots, because we know y'all get the 38s and such, but we also hear from some of the guys, they were always worried about being shot down and wanting more than a 38. Did you ever trade with some of the SOG guy or the SF guys or anything to get you a machine gun, a carbine, or anything to carry with you?
I carried the what's called the grenade launcher.
Oh, the M79.
And I went through a couple of 38s because a couple of times we took. Well, when I got wounded, I was only there about 3.5 weeks, and I got wounded. I took a round through the chin bubble, and the plexiglass landed in my thigh.
Ooh.
And of course I pulled that. I pulled it out. And I did my own first aid on it, and I went to see the doctor when I got back to make sure it wasn't infected. 35 years later, I got my Purple Heart.
Oh Lord. That's crazy. 35 years later, and it's coming through.
Yeah. Well, it only came through because my late wife's uncle was a POW in World War II, and he was a member of the Purple Heart Association. And he asked me if I ever got wounded. And I said, well, yeah, but guys were wounded worse than me. So I didn't say anything. So he said, "We have any proof?" Well, they had sent my mother a telegram that I was wounded. She kept it.
Oh, cool.
And then 35 years later, they
evidence of a Purple Heart.
Purple Heart, yeah.
Wow. That's amazing. I was it's funny how you guys would take the Purple Heart if it was warranted, but unless it was something drastic, a real gunshot wound or something, you guys would do all you could to get away from a Purple Heart.
Yeah, but there are guys that lost their eyesight, lost eyes. Like I said.
No John Wayne. I mean, no John Kerry Purple Hearts here.
No. How he got 3 Purple Hearts in such a short period of time is amazing.
The man never ceases to amaze and disappoint me all in the same thinking of him. It's amazing. um wow. So you're running the M79 for your secondary weapon. Did you ever have to use it, God forbid? When
No,
did you ever, thank
no,
God.
no.
Thank God. Geez, that would have been wild. You out there using the thumper, launching HE rounds at the VC and NVA.
Well, there are there's certain things that are become a little humorous. We were working a LARP mission similar to what we did with the special forces, but not as intense. And our gunships were preoccupied, so I got assigned a gunship group that was just over in country. Actually, this was going to be their first mission, and I directed the gunship leader to, prep the area for us before we inserted the LERPs. And all of a sudden, he goes in and he starts his prepping, and I hear him go, "Oh shit!" I said, "Oh, what's that about?" He said, "Well, instead of punching off a rocket, I punched off my pod." Whole
Oh.
pod. I said, "Well, don't worry about it. You'll see the rockets again."
Gosh, thumped off the whole entire pod.
Yeah.
That's funny. I heard of somebody, it was either a Covey with external gas tanks or a helicopter with pods, but they had run Winchester and were still trying to get the NVA or the VC off of the team, and he ran through on a dry run and just threw all of his pods, his external gas tank, them thinking it was bombs and all of that, and that actually bumped him off a little bit to where the team could get back a little bit till another gunship came on station. I thought that was pretty daggone cool.
Yeah.
Um, did gosh, what was with the alert missions you were mentioning, was that was with your 101st, or was that the 9th ID alerts, or
No, the 101st.
101st alerts? Wow, very interesting. We've had a few of them on, and I'm supposed to be getting 2 more on this week, so I'll be anxious to see what unit they were with serving as alert. I Speaking of another interesting story, could you tell us a little bit about how y'all got the little story behind how the Greyhounds got their name, and actually how the bus company was actually okay with the Greyhound usage and the logo?
Well, I was when the unit started up. It started up at Fort Hood,
Mm.
and I don't. I don't. I wasn't there when they did all of that stuff. So by the time I got there, we were already the Greyhounds. But from what I understand, that the previous commander of the unit worked something out with them to get the logo. As a matter of fact, from what I understand, the unit was in their museum, wherever their headquarters were. It's still to this day, we got a nice write up in their magazine and everything. So I'm not that familiar with the history of how it was done.
If I'm not mistaken, I want to say that they actually sent like a box full of logos for well, they've got a stencil they sent especially for the aircraft to use, but I think they sent a ton of like beer mugs, stickers, and all kind of stuff, to where they officially unofficially were kind of sponsoring y'all for a while. It seemed
Oh,
like they enjoyed it.
I had heard that too. Yeah.
Yeah, I thought that was really cool, especially for the time, everybody being against the Vietnam War, but there they are, leaning into it, which was
Yeah,
really.
they used to uh, you know kept us in the in their publicity during the war.
That's great. I always loved seeing the companies that stood behind y'all, the beer companies and all of that. That was really cool seeing them sending pallets and of beer and all that. I thought this was really cool in the club that y'all had with the both the Mad Dog and the Greyhound symbols on there. Of course, the Mad Dogs were the gunships, and then the Greyhounds, as we mentioned, were the slicks. Is this where I don't know if this is it says the Bachelor Officers Club, but do you remember this being up when you were with the 240th?
I vaguely remember. I wasn't there that much into the club because we leave. Matter of fact, you know, there used to be the radio station. They used to come on around 7 o'clock or something like that in the morning. Good morning, Vietnam. You know,
Yes,
we were
sir.
already up about 3 hours. We had to take off at dawn, and we didn't get back till sometime 9, 10 o'clock at night. You know,
Yeah,
and
and be completely worn out by then. Not the club's last thing on your mind, I can imagine.
right, I didn't spend much time there.
This was a great map that they had in the book, laying out y'all's locations. You mentioned Camp Bearcat, Honak Tau, which was FOB, I want to say 6 for Project Sigma, which incorporated and became CCS. They brought all that together. There's Loch Ninh, which you mentioned, Quan Loy, which is a launch site. And of course, there's the Fish Hook, where I believe right in this area also is where Jerry Shriver was killed as well.
Mm-hmm.
Several missions were in this area that a lot of CCS teams did not come out faring too well.
Right.
Very, very sad.
That area, when Nixon invaded, finally went into Cambodia, that was the area that he went into.
Wow.
As a matter of fact, I also, I don't know if it's a fact or not, but when I got back, I was based in Fort Rucker there, and it was my turn to go back, and they wouldn't let me. They wouldn't let me upgrade to the Chinook or any other thing. I was already a fixed-wing pilot. No, this, that, and the other thing. And then I find out later that they went in exactly the same area that we were in on May 2nd. And they probably wanted, they knew that I was a CNC at the time. And I probably knew the area. And they wanted me to go back there, I guess, to work on that area or something. But I told them that I got out and I went into a reserve unit.
Yeah. One time in the Fish Hook and Parrot's Beak is more than enough, especially with the mission that you went in with it in. I mean, geez Louise.
And then after I got out of the service, I made a career in the National Transportation Safety Board. I was an accident investigator.
Oh, wow. How long did you end up doing that for?
20 years. I retired from that.
Wow. So you would be one of the guys we see in the blue jacket that would be at the aircraft wrecks, the helicopter wrecks and such?
I was an investigator in charge, right.
Wow. I bet, I mean, it probably pretty hard work, but I imagine that was an interesting job to transfer into after your post-military career.
Yeah, no, as a matter of fact, when I was in my reserve unit, I had a chance to go to University of Southern California for the investigative school out there.
Wow.
Then I worked a couple of years as a safety officer in my reserve unit until I had to get out, and then worked for an insurance company doing an investigation until I finally got on with the safety board.
Wow. I know, like you said, this is a U.S. wide thing, but where was your home base at with the NTSB?
Well, I did 10 years in New York, the area where I live, and then 10 years in Miami.
Ooh, two very active places air-wise, and especially if you've been seeing the crazy stuff going on, that sad story of the European family that fell into the New York harbor.
Just happened, and I pretty much, it has to be investigated, but I pretty much know what happened there. As a matter of fact, today I found out that they shut down that operator. So
wow, it looked like a terrible catastrophic failure. I mean, no tail rotor. It looked like the top rotor was off as well.
yeah, it looks like what it's appearing is he was getting low on fuel, and I think he probably might have run out of fuel, and he messed up the emergency procedures, the auto rotation, and got into
Man, that's terrible. That is just terrible. And I've heard a rumor, and I don't know if it's true or not, but it had said that gentleman, the pilot, was a former Navy SEAL.
He was only an 800-hour civilian pilot. He wasn't a military pilot.
Wow, that's terrible. Seems like New York, I can understand tourists wanting to get up there, but it seems like the New York airspace would just be a nightmare to have to fly in.
Well, my reserve unit was in the area, flew the area a lot, but they got a lot of restrictions. I mean, they were, for a while there, they were really piling the sky up with those tourist helicopters. I'm not too pleased with them. I wouldn't use them.
No, I've got a thing on flying myself, just normally flying across the country, but flying in a city over the water and all of that, no, in a helicopter, that's not my cup of tea, as they say. Let's see here. So when did you officially leave Vietnam and D-Rose back to the States?
It was as you know, 68 was a leap year, so I spent 367 days there, and but it was in the last week of November to November.
Wow, my birth month. Wow. Did you you said you went back and were you wanting to go back after your stint at Fort Rucker, or were they wanting you to go back, you said?
Well, they wanted me to go back.
Wanted you to.
I mean, I would have gone back, but I wanted to transition. Either Chinooks or fixed wing. I didn't want to go back,
as a slick file.
Combat assault unit. But they just kept on telling me, no. Basically, we were saying, if you survive another tour, then you can get all of that stuff.
That's crazy. And I mean, isn't that usually the rule of thumb that, like you said, usually you can kind of have your pick of changing models, so to speak, or airframes?
That's if you volunteer.
Oh God.
You volunteer to stay or extend. They would give you something. But I came back, worked at Rucker, and then the time came, and I was negotiating with them, but they wouldn't give in. So I said, "All right, take me off duty." I was off back to duty for about 8 months, and then I joined the reserve unit up here.
Were you a training officer at Fort Rucker before you got out?
Well, basically, when I helped establish the air traffic control school there.
Oh wow! Let me write that down. My buddy went through air traffic control school there. Fortunately, he's no longer with us, but he was a good guy. Wow, that's pretty interesting. And was that the first Army air traffic control school, or was it just the?
No, it was the first, right?
Wow, heavy duty.
We developed the courses and everything.
Wow. And is that still in effect at Fort Rucker, or have they changed it to a bigger unit?
I don't know. I really don't know.
I'll have to check that out. That's pretty cool. I did not know. Learn something new every day talking to you guys. Wow. And what did you when you ended up retiring, what was your final rank in service that you retired as?
Major.
Wow. Major Al Yerman. Were you a first lieutenant your whole time while you were in Vietnam?
No, I got promoted in September of that year 2 months, 2 or 3 months before I got rotated out.
Wow. Excellent.
So I actually,
Wow.
the last few months I was there as a captain.
You seem to move your way up the ranks pretty quick to from captain to major there. That was pretty good timing, it looked like.
Yeah, it wasn't bad.
Yeah, yeah. Let me see. I believe everybody's just listening in closely here. Did I don't think we skipped anything. We talked about Mr. Larry, Mr. Jesse James, Mr. Jerry Ewing and his DFC. Did we talk about Mr. Jerry dropping water that time when he was supposed to get a DFC? I think.
No, I don't remember that.
Okay, I may have him confused in the book with another one. Did you have anything else that we may have missed or that you'd like to speak on before we close out for the afternoon?
No, I think we covered a lot.
Yes, sir. Gosh, we're coming up on 2 hours here, actually. If I can think of anything else that I always do that I end up missing or forgetting to bring up, would you be open to come back on and talk to us again sometime?
Sure, we'll try to arrange it. Sure.
Excellent. Well, I don't see any questions right now. I'm sure once everybody gives it a listen and all that, they'll start hitting me with questions. So I'll just stay in touch with you, and we'll see about setting up if we can get some good questions in and such as that. We'll see if you can come back and join us for part 2. All righty, guys.
Maybe if some of the people haven't gotten the book, read the book, then they'll have some questions.
Absolutely, guys. And as a matter of fact, I will link this in the show notes to where y'all can just go straight to it instead of having to Google it up yourself. Legend by Mr. Eric Blem. Great, great book. A lot on Mr. Roy, but a lot on Mr. Al and the 240th as well. That's why it was so great. It covers all aspects of the incident, shall we say. But I think we've done pretty well today. We'll go ahead and call it out. And Mr. Al, thank you so much for joining us all morning to talk to us.
All right. Have a good one.
Yes, sir. God bless.